Have you noticed how many brands are launching blush sticks lately? But the question is it really a revolutionary new format, a truly unique formula, or are we just seeing the same old thing repackaged? Because let's be honest, we all want to know if it's worth adding another blush to our collection. If you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Salima, and today I am going to compare and swatch 14 different blushes in stick format from my collection. We have got a fantastic mix of some brand new launches that just hit the market and some tried and true favorites that have been with me for a while. If that sounds like fun, then go ahead, grab your favorite snack or a drink, get super comfy, and let's get right into it. Alright, let's kick things off with the blushes that actually inspired this entire video. The new Dior Rosy Glow Blush Sticks. These come in 7 shades. 3 of them have a pearlescent finish, and 4 have more of a glowy finish. I got one of each here to show you. Let's start with the packaging. I think it is great. I am a huge fan of the color coordinated caps. It makes it so easy to spot exactly which shade I want to wear without having to open them all up or squint to read tiny names. It is such a smart detail. Now let's talk about scent. They do have a pretty strong candy like fragrance, but honestly, it disappears within 10 to 15 seconds, so it's really not an issue for me. If you are sensitive to scents, just know it's there for a moment. The texture here is absolutely spot on though. It's perfectly creamy, but with that really balanced emollient feel. It's not one of those slippery formulas that feels greasy, but it still glides beautifully across the skin without any pulling or tugging. And because of that perfect texture, blending it out is incredibly easy. Whether you are using fingers or brush, it just melts right in. No fuss at all. I find these blushes to be moderately pigmented. When you blend them out, you still have a lot of color payoff. It's not like they just disappear into nothing on the skin. They set down to a lovely, dewy, glowy finish on the skin, and normally I am all about that juicy, dewy glow. Except there's one shade that gave me a bit of a curveball. Toffee. Toffee is a beautiful nude beige with a peachy undertone, and I genuinely thought this would be an amazing blush to add subtle warmth and soft definition to the cheeks. But Dior took that pearlescent finish just a little too far with this one. This shade isn't just dewy, it has so much visible sparkle. All I can see are golden glitter particles spread across my cheeks when I wear it. For me, and this is totally a personal preference, I just don't like to see obvious sparkle or glitter on my cheeks. So honestly, I won't be reaching for toffee very often. Now, if you're thinking, Salima, you knew toffee had a pearlescent finish. Why did you buy it? Well, I was hoping it would look similar to another favorite blush stick in my collection, the LYS Beauty Glow Blush Stick in the shade Curvy. Take a look at how metallic the LYS stick appears in the swatch here. It looks super shimmery, right? But unlike the Dior Toffee, once I blend out the LYS blush, I get this beautiful, smooth, non glittery glow. It's still shimmery, but I don't see any individual glitter particles on my cheeks. With the LYS, the color, the glow, and the sheen are all much more diffuse and seamless compared to the Dior. That's why I find the LYS look much more sophisticated and wearable for most occasions. And speaking of beautiful shimmers, I also have the Makeup by Mario Soft Pop Blush Stick in Soft Coral. Just like the Dior Toffee, this one has a pearlescent finish. You can actually see very fine golden shimmer particles here that enhances the radiant effect on the skin. But here's the crucial difference that makes all the impact. I have found that Dior blush has much larger, more irregular glitter particles in its formula compared to both the LYS and the Makeup by Mario. That's why with Dior Toffee, I see a visible amount of chunky glitter on my cheeks. It's almost like a highlighter effect, not a cohesive blush. In contrast, both the Makeup by Mario and the LYS formula creates a much smoother, diffuse glow. Their shimmer is so finely milled, it melts into the skin, giving you that lit from within radiance without any distracting sparkle. It's the difference between a natural luminosity and a disco ball effect. And for everyday wear, I know which one I am reaching for. Now, I saw some reviews comparing the Dior blushes to the Haus Labs Glassy blush bombs. And I think if you love the idea of those Dior blushes, but maybe you don't want to drop $44 on a single one, let me tell you, you will not regret trying the Haus Labs blushes. I can almost guarantee it. From my experience, it is very similar in texture and performance to the Dior blush sticks. Both of them are creamy with just the right amount of emollients. They both glide on without tugging, blend out seamlessly, and set down to a dewy, glowy finish. I get about 8 to 9 hours of wear out of both before I notice any fading, which is awesome for a cream product. However, the House Lab blushes are much more pigmented in a single swipe compared to the Dior blushes. Because of that, I always like to apply it to the back of my hand first, then pick it up with a brush to really control the intensity on my cheeks. This way, I can get just the right amount of flush without overdoing it. Speaking of shades, I thought that the House Labs Glassy Rosette would be a dupe for my beloved Dior Rosewood. But no, they're not quite similar at all. Dior's Rosewood is that gorgeous, muted, dusty rose with a really balanced, almost neutral warm undertones. It's not too warm, not too cool, just sophisticated. Even though Dior markets their blushes as pH activated, I personally don't see the color changing much on my skin from what I see in the stick itself. House Labs Glossy Rosette, on the other hand, is a true rosy pink. It's much cooler and brighter than the Dior's Rosewood, and it instantly makes my complexion look so fresh and vibrant. Honestly, I love both of these shades for different occasions. Overall, I think that the House Labs Glassy Blush Balms are an excellent, more accessible alternative to the Dior blush sticks without compromising on quality or performance. You still get that high end feel without the high end price tag. And now, if you want an even more affordable alternative to the Dior or the House Labs blushes, something you can easily grab outside of Sephora, these Pixi on the glow blush sticks will fit the bill. These have been in my collection long before I even started this YouTube channel, and I still love them so much. What's amazing is that these are every bit as glowy, dewy, and juicy looking on the cheeks as the Dior and the House Labs. But here's this fantastic element of simplicity with these. I can literally just swipe and blend it on my cheeks with my fingertips. No brush, no fuss. And the best part, it doesn't move my foundation or base makeup underneath, which is crucial for me. I find these to be moderately pigmented, pretty similar to the Dior blushes in that sense. They start with a sheer wash that's easy to build, and they have that same lovely, balmy, creamy texture that just melts into the skin. You still get about 8 to 9 hours of wear before any noticeable fading, which is excellent for a product in this price range. And within this line, I have to highlight the shade Fleur. It's described as a soft baby pink with a cool undertone, but it's definitely not a bubblegum pink. On the skin, it looks so incredibly natural and beautiful, almost like you just came in from a winter walk or you have been playing in the snow. You know that look? Your cheeks look just a little rosy, but it's not red or irritated. It's just this healthy, diffused flush. I think it's incredible. Now, if you are a makeup minimalistic, you are into clean girl, natural, no makeup kind of looks, and you love the idea of a dewy finish, but you want something that's subtle, natural, and truly looks like your skin, not like you have applied a shimmery product or a super glossy balm, then Merit Flush Balm is your jam. This isn't going to give you that intense wet look dewiness that you get from House Labs, Pixi, or even the new Dior blushes. It's all about making your skin itself look healthy, hydrated, and naturally luminous. I also find them to be most beginner friendly cream blush formulas out there. They're practically impossible to mess up. These are not as intensely pigmented on the first swipe as some of the other blushes we have discussed, which makes them incredibly forgiving. You can literally swipe it on and then blend it out with your fingers. It's so easy. It's hard to look like a clown with merit, even when you're rushing out the door. In fact, because of this sheer but buildable formula, I find it super easy to wear even bold shades like red. Rouge is hands down one of my most worn red blush in my entire collection. If you ever felt intimidated by a red blush, this is absolutely the one to try. By the way, I ask you guys if you would be interested in seeing a dedicated red blush showdown video. And some of you said yes. So let me know in the comments if you're still interested in that. Overall, I love this formula so much. It's that effortless pop of healthy, radiant color that makes you look instantly put together. Alright, since we are on the topic of natural looking blushes, I have two more I really want to talk about. First is the Rhode Pocket Blush, specifically in the shade Sleepy Girl. Now, as much as I like the formula on this, I have to be completely honest about the packaging. It is just so chunky and bulky for the amount of product you are getting. Despite being called a pocket blush, I really don't think this is pocket sized at all. It's even a pain to fit into my regular makeup travel bag. It just takes up way too much space. The formula, on the other hand, is absolutely beautiful. It's just as creamy and emollient as the Dior or the Haus Labs formula, so it feels really hydrating and luxurious on the skin. However, here's what makes it unique. I have noticed that it goes on super pigmented in a single swipe, but then when you actually blend it out, it beautifully shears out to give a soft, diffuse color payoff. This is why it's another incredibly beginner friendly formula. You get that initial hit of color, so you know exactly where you're placing it. But it shears out so smoothly to create that seamless natural flush. Plus, you can easily add more product if you want a deeper color without it ever looking cakey. Once blended, it sets down to a soft, satin, almost skin like finish. So, if you're aiming for a truly understated, my skin but better kind of look, this is a perfect blush to achieve that. The other natural looking blush stick is this one from Ilia. Now, the formula on this is quite different from all the other blush sticks we have discussed so far. In my experience, the Ilia has a drier, less slippery texture compared to those super emollient cream blushes out there. It definitely requires a bit more warmth, either from my fingers or a brush, to really get it to melt and blend out seamlessly. Because of this, I actually prefer to apply it to the back of my hand first, then use my fingers to dab it onto my cheeks. This trick really helps to avoid any patchiness and give you a much smoother application. Just like the Rhode Pocket Blushes or the Merit Flush Balms, once blended, the Ilia sets down to a beautiful, soft, luminous finish. It genuinely makes my skin look so healthy and fresh. And here's a huge bonus, especially for some of you. Because it has that less emollient formula, I have found that it tends to last much longer on the skin than any other cream blushes I have tried. So if you have oily or combination skin and you're looking for a blush that gives you a gorgeous, healthy, natural luminosity without feeling overly heavy or contributing to oiliness, the Ilia Multi-Stick might be your very new best friend. Alright, now let's talk about another new blush stick that hit the market recently. But before we do that, if you're enjoying this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you enjoy straight to the point reviews, swatches, comparisons, consider subscribing to my channel. We would love to have you here. Next up, I have the new Charlotte Tilbury Unreal Blush Healthy Glow Sticks. These come in 6 shades and retail for $42. Now, the Dior sticks retail for $44, so they're very similarly priced. And I don't know about you guys, but I've never considered Charlotte Tilbury to be at the same level of luxury tier as the Dior. So I find the pricing on Charlotte Tilbury a little hard to digest. But you guys let me know what do you think in the comments. I do actually like the packaging on these. While It's not as sleek as Dior's, but I really appreciate that the components are color coordinated to the blush shades. That make it so much easier for me to find what I'm looking for in my gigantic collection of blushes. In terms of formula itself, right off the bat, you can tell that it is much more pigmented than the Dior blush sticks. And here's a key difference from the Rhode Pocket blushes. When you share out this Charlotte Tilbury formula, it still retains that high intensity of pigment. So these are definitely the blush sticks that I reach for when I want a vibrant pop of color on my cheeks. Despite being so highly pigmented, it's still incredibly easy to blend out without any patchiness. In my experience, Charlotte Tilbury blushes have the same level of creaminess and emollients as the Dior. They both feel luxurious on the skin. However, I actually find the Dior blushes to be more dewy and glossier compared to the Charlotte Tilbury. The Charlotte Tilbury instead sets down to a more soft focus glow, a skin like sheen that's just incredibly refined. Overall, I think that both the Dior and the Charlotte Tilbury are fantastic luxury blush stick options, but it really comes down to the type of glow and the level of initial pigment you prefer. I like that the Dior has a more sheer to buildable level of pigment with a classic feel. So you get a softer, more sheer initial application that's very forgiving and easy to layer. While Charlotte Tilbury gives you a more consistently refined, intensely pigmented blush option. So if you want a quicker, more impactful color payoff that still blends out seamlessly and isn't patchy, Charlotte Tilbury is an excellent choice for that. Neither is a wrong choice, just different paths to a radiant cheek. All right, moving on to another luxury blush stick in my collection. These are the Westman Atelier Baby Cheeks blush sticks. They come in 8 shades and they even offer mini versions of 3 of their most popular colors, which is a great way to try them out. In all honesty, I think that the color options in the Westman Atelier Baby Cheeks are far more exciting than what you find from Charlotte Tilbury or Dior. They just have a really unique, sophisticated palette. One of my absolute favorites is the shade called Shoe Shed. This is such a beautiful, soft, warm peach that just perfectly complements my skin tone. Now let's talk about formula. I find that the Westman Atelier isn't as intensely emollient and dewy as the Dior or the Charlotte Tilbury. It definitely feels creamy, but with a touch more grip, for lack of a better word. It's a slightly firmer cream. You might think that a slightly firmer cream would drag on the skin, but these absolutely don't. They truly melt into the skin with the warmth of your fingers or a brush. And they do it seamlessly without disturbing my base makeup underneath. Because of this less emollient formula, it sets down to that gorgeous, natural, skin like satin finish. It's that perfect, understated glow that truly looks like your skin, just healthier. I love that these also last all day without much fading, which is fantastic for a cream blush. So if you haven't tried these yet, I would highly recommend grabbing one of the mini versions to see what the hype is all about. All right, moving on to another relatively newer product that I've been really enjoying, the Violet FR BISOU Blush Marble Cream Blush Sticks. First thing first, these are significantly more sheer than any of the other blushes we have talked about today. They're buildable if you want more color, but even with layers, they maintain that natural soft focus finish. This means you get a subtle hint of color that melts into your skin, making it almost impossible to overdo. They also leave a gorgeous, soft matte finish on the skin. It's not flat or powdery, it's just a beautiful, non shiny skin like look. I actually find that using a brush that comes with it is super useful for blending these out on my skin. In terms of wear, I get about 6 to 7 hours of wear out of it before it starts to softly fade, which is pretty good for a cream blush with this kind of natural finish. Now let's talk about the shade Melanie. I absolutely love this one. It's described as a warm coral pink and it gives such a beautiful, natural flush of color. It's definitely not a bold, in your face coral, nor it is a bright Barbie pink. Instead, it's that subtle, healthy warmth that just melts into your complexion. So, bottom line, if you're explicitly looking for a sheer, natural, and non shiny blush, the Violet FR BISOU blushes are an excellent choice. They're perfect for achieving that barely there, effortless flush, especially if you prefer a subtle hint of color without a prominent glow. Alright, moving on, I have another fantastic blush stick with a soft matte finish, and this is the Persona DreamStick Cream Blush. I have it here in the shade Guava, which is a beautiful, warm peachy pink. Now, when we compare it to the Violet FR, I find that the Persona is actually more pigmented on that initial swipe. You get a more immediate color payoff, but it can still be sheared out really easily, and you can still build up the intensity as much as you desire, which makes it super versatile. Now, let's talk about the formula. I find this to be much more creamy and silky smooth compared to the Violet FR. It just glides onto the skin effortlessly, which makes blending an absolute dream. In terms of wear time, I get the same 6 to 7 hours of wear out of this as I do with Violet FR, so it holds up really well throughout the day. And it's also about $7 to $8 cheaper than the Violet FR blushes. So honestly, if you find a shade you love in the Persona Dreamstick line, I think you should absolutely give it a go. You're getting amazing quality for the price. Alright, last matte blush stick I want to talk about is from Nudestix. Their matte blushes were actually the very first cream blush stick I ever tried, and I still love them. Just like the Violet FR and Persona blushes, these nude sticks deliver a beautiful, soft matte finish on the skin. You won't find any dewiness or shimmer here. They're creamy and well pigmented right from the initial swipe, but they're still very easy to blend out. You can get a vibrant pop of color, or you can sheer it out a bit with your brush or your fingers. What I really love about this formula is that it stays matte throughout the day with very little fading. This is great, especially if you have combination to oily skin or if you just want your blush to stay put from morning till night. My favorite shade is Sunset Strip. This is such a stunning, bright, warm coral orange. It looks vibrant in the stick, but on the cheeks, it blends into this gorgeous, healthy flush that just brings so much life to my face. It's a perfect pop of sunshine color that manages to look natural despite its brightness, thanks to that lovely matte finish. And the last product on this list is another relatively new launch that I've been loving. It's the Makeup Forever Artist Color Crayon Waterproof Multi-Use Stick. Now, these are not exactly marketed to be used just as a blush. They're true multi use crayons. Some shades work beautifully on the eyes, some on the lips, and yes, some definitely on the cheeks. I actually wasn't planning on buying these at all since I already have so many similar products in my collection. But when I was in Sephora and I swatched this particular shade, Wherever Walnut, I really liked it. So I decided to give it a go. Wherever Walnut is this perfect muted rosy brown shade. For me, it works great as a neutral contour blush hybrid. I do have similar shades in my collection, but most of those tend to have a dewy finish. This one, however, has a beautiful natural finish on the skin, so it looks incredibly subtle and seamless. While it's a crayon, it's surprisingly creamy enough to blend onto the cheeks without any tugging or pulling. It just melts in effortlessly. And I've also found it to be super long lasting. It's marketed as a waterproof formula, and honestly, in this hot and humid weather, I haven't observed any fading throughout the day. I love it for adding a subtle, natural warmth and dimension to my cheeks. All right, my friends, that wraps up today's video about all the blush sticks. I really hope this was helpful for you in navigating all the different formulas and finishes out there. Now, I would love to hear from you. Which one is your favorite blush stick from this lineup, or even from your own collection? Are these newer Dior and Charlotte Tilbury formulas exciting enough for you to justify that luxury purchase? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, I wish you all stay healthy, happy, and safe wherever you are in the world, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye for now.